The Senate Committee on Agriculture will come back to order. There's a lesson for me to be learned. I went from that end of the table to this end of the table, so there's hope in the Senate that you can arise, maybe to the occasion, but hopefully longer term than that. And I'm pleased to be back and on the Ag Committee, and I'm pleased to sit wherever I am assigned to sit during the committee hearings, and I thank both of these witnesses for being here. I want to just ask a couple of questions, and then I'll check with Senator Klobuchar and we'll conclude the hearing. You and I, Judge Vaden, had a conversation in my office that I want to reiterate. You were engaged in efforts in the earlier Trump administration in regard to location of Department of Agricultural agencies in places outside of Washington, D.C. And one of the places that occurred was in Kansas City, Missouri, perhaps a few miles off course, but in our neighborhood. And what I discovered was that while the Biden administration, Secretary Vilsack, didn't overturn that decision, he really didn't enforce it, and that most of the employees who work in those two offices appear remotely. I'd like to know your reaction, and then I'd like to hear generally what plans you are aware of or would encourage or support that deal with other agencies and their location outside the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area.
Well, Senator, you are correct that as General Counsel, I was involved in providing legal advice, which made the move of those two agencies possible to the Kansas City area. Those two agencies, NIFA and ERS, are vital to the work of the Department of Agriculture, but they're more importantly vital to the work of rural America. And I think it's a good thing that they are located out in rural America, closer rather to the people whom they serve. It has been publicly announced that the National Institutes of Food and Agriculture has a new director. That's Dr. Jay Hamby. He's been on the job for a short period of time, but as Dr. Hamby is a proud Tennessean, I have come to know him, and I know that one of the first things that he did, he even postponed one of his orientation sessions, Senator, in order to do this, was to fly out to Kansas City and to welcome the employees of his agency when they were brought back to the office there in Kansas City, to welcome them, let them know their work was valued, and let them know that there in Kansas City they are a vital part of USDA. And so that important first step taken by Dr. Hamby in his new role as director, I think bodes well for that agency's future in the Kansas City area.
I appreciate that answer, and I look forward to working with you and with him in that regard, and apparently the General Counsel as well. Again, Judge Vaden, food aid is an important component of, in my view, our moral responsibilities as well as economic benefit to farmers and ranchers. I met this weekend with a half a dozen agricultural groups' leadership in Kansas to talk about the circumstance that we want to accomplish in regard to trade. And I would highlight for you that they indicated that the steps that need to be taken now while we're imposing trade and perhaps using that as leverage is to rapidly begin the process of negotiating trade agreements, bilateral trade agreements with countries around the world. And if confirmed, but in the meantime, between now and then, if you would convey that, one of the things that they indicated to me that is worthy of remembering, that the agricultural economy is in more difficult circumstances today than it was in 2018 when the tariff battles occurred. And while I know there's talk of compensating for the losses that farmers may undertake because of these trade and tariff issues, we need to be reminded that with drought and the circumstances that we've had in many places in the country, interest rates, input costs, the ability actually to borrow money, that farmers face more serious challenges. And again, I would highlight one of their suggestions is let's quickly begin looking for markets for our commodities. And in some circumstances, meaning using the tariffs as leverage to get those accomplished. And then I want to highlight food for peace. So I've got a long Kansas history, the Food for Peace program. A farmer at a Farm Bureau meeting in Cheyenne County, Kansas, was wondering why he saw grain stacked at his grain elevator that was going to waste, and brought forth to a Farm Bureau county meeting the idea of why can't we find a way to feed people who are hungry. Dwight Eisenhower and others from Kansas were leaders at the time, and Food for Peace came into play. Bob Dole, generally known as a champion for Food for Peace, a senator from Kansas, reauthorized the program. And it's not part of the Department of Agriculture, so you may wonder why I'm raising this to you. It's raising to the two of you because you're so influential now and in the future that I'd like your voice in this regard. The farmers and farm groups that I visited with over the weekend also indicated that food aid is a component of their income as well. And so with Food for Peace, Senator Hoeven and I introduced legislation that would transfer. So when the Department of State indicated that pause or demise of USAID, Senator Hoeven and I introduced legislation to move Food for Peace to the Department of Agriculture, where it used to be. I've had conversations with the Secretary of Agriculture, who seemed inclined to be supportive of that. We've had conversations with OMB, and the White House aides, all of which seemed sympathetic to that. And it would be my understanding is that I started to say Senator Rubio, but Secretary of State Senator Rubio indicated that Food for Peace would remain at the State Department unless there was an agency or department that was interested in managing that program. And everything I know about that from those conversations I indicated is that the Department of Agriculture is willing and, in my view, able to administer Food for Peace. If you would highlight for your future colleagues the importance of saying so publicly and within the administration, that Food for Peace needs to have a future, and a future could very well be at USDA. And then let me ask the future General Counsel. It's been my practice in a number of hearings to make certain that I have an appreciation, understanding of where those who are giving legal advice to a department would rest. But we've had so many instances when legal advice is provided, it touches on so many aspects of USDA operations, and I want to make certain that your legal advice is sound and consistent with the law, nothing that you wouldn't want either, I'm sure. But I would like for you to confirm to me that you're committed to following the letter of the law.
Thank you for the question, Senator. In all instances, I'm committed to following the letter of the law.
And let me ask just one further question, that when a court rules what that law means, would your advice then be to the department to follow the order or judicial decision of the court?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? Senator Bozeman is such a good politician that he's letting me enjoy the moment of my chairmanship a moment longer. I would again thank, on behalf of Senator Bozeman and Senator Klobuchar, I thank Judge Vaden and Mr. Clarson for appearing before our committee, and our committee members for their participation in today's important hearing. The record of this hearing will remain open for 2 business days, and the committee is now adjourned.